Hello, my friends. My name is Jack Descartes, and this is Sentinel Circle. Thank you for being here today. I really do appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and get to our topic. The topic of the day. We're going to talk about being assertive. So, we started this series on the power of no. We now have introduced setting boundaries, but the problem with these two things is unless you stick to your guns, pardon the expression, but if you stick to your principles, you have to stick to your principles in order to, how do I want to put this? You need to be assertive in order for those things to work. Otherwise, your boundaries are like a wet paper bag. They're going to crumple under the slightest bit of pressure. So you have to learn to be assertive is what I'm trying to say here. Okay. Because the problem is you're like, hey, don't do that. It doesn't really play off as saying, please don't do that again. Okay. So let's start with this article. It says here, and this is from Mayo Clinic, being assertive, reduce stress, and communicate better. Assertiveness can help you control stress and anger and improve coping skills. Recognize and learn assertive behavior and communication. Now, a lot of people, and it does go over this in the article later, but a lot of people confuse assertive with being angry. Okay. The one thing that men do well that women don't do as well is assertive. Like a man who's assertive, a man can be assertive, and I've seen assertive men, and men who are assertive, they do tend to hold more respect. Whereas a woman who thinks she's being assertive is not coming off as assertive. She's coming off as the, like a see you next Tuesday, the B word, whatever adjective you want to put out there. And I've seen this. Women, they, whereas men know how to throttle the engine pretty effectively, women will really hit that throttle. And it really turns, and I'm not saying this in a relationship aspect, but it really turns men off specifically when you're coming off as, a B or a see you next Tuesday or, with the men, like, a rear end or male genitalia, whatever. Whatever phrases you want to use. Like I said, my boss is assertive, but he can come off as a rear end as well. It really depends on a lot of things, what's that famous Seinfeld quote? Like 90% of the human interaction is body language, which I will agree, but you can't. Body language as a science isn't a real thing, but body language as a communication artwork and skill is a real thing. And again, these are things you have to practice. You can't just do it, and you can't practice these things in some basement. I'm not in a basement. I'm in a closet though. You have to first go to your mirror, practice it. Learn like different ways of doing and practice it, and then find people, practice it there. And, it just takes time. Okay. But hey, I believe in you. I want you to know I believe in you. And, you'll get through it. You'll become a better man for it. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started on this. Being assertive is a core communication skill. See, I told you. Assertiveness can help you express yourself effectively and stand up for your point of view. It can also help you do this while respecting the rights and beliefs of others. And that's the key here. Respect. I know the whole saying, you have to give respect in order to get respect. And there is truth to that. But you can't. The problem with respect is a lot of people don't give it unless they feel you've earned it. And I understand that. Okay, I get that. But at the same time, they could be respectful at the very start as well. You shouldn't have to earn respect. There should be a very bare minimum level of respect that everybody gets. Pleases and thank yous for one. Turning on your turn signal when you're about ready to turn, rather than, jumping 3 lanes in front of people, nearly causing an accident. Okay. And it just seems like these days there is no respect. There's no politeness. There's no manners. There's nothing out there. Part of the reason why I don't want people swearing on this channel is it's respect. I want you to be able to watch these videos at your job without having the awkward swears in there. Now, I know other places a good one is Unsubscribe. They allow swearing, but that's because they want people to feel comfortable in their situation. That's fine. That works for them. Here, not so much. I want people to be comfortable, but at the same time, there is just a level of decorum. Now, in my personal life at home, I do swear up like a sailor, but that's besides the point. There needs to be just a very bare minimum level of respect, and that has to come from within as well. If you can't just go around and not show respect to people. You have to show respect, even if they don't respect you back, because not only is that up here for you, but other people see that as well. Other people are watching you interact with other people. And if those people are not respecting you, but they see you respecting other people, they'll want to know you. They'll want to like you. Okay. All right. So being assertive can also help boost your self-esteem and earn others' respects. This can help with stress management. It may especially help you reduce stress if you tend to take on too many responsibilities because you have a hard time saying no. Again, saying no is the bare minimum thing you have to learn. Say no. Some people seem to be naturally assertive. Yes, this is true. But if you're not assertive, you can learn to be. Why assertive communication makes sense. Because assertiveness is based on mutual respect, it's an efficient and diplomatic communication style. Being assertive shows that you respect yourself because you're willing to stand up for your interests and express your thoughts and feelings. It also demonstrates that you're aware of others' rights and willing to work on resolving conflicts. So there's a sense here of conflict resolution, which is, I would argue that that's also a good thing about being assertive. It's hard to resolve conflicts when you appear weak. Teddy Roosevelt used to say, speak softly and carry a big stick. Well, sometimes that respect is the big stick. You can't walk in there with a weak handshake and a weak demeanor. You have to present confidence. You have to have that aura of confidence in order to get what you want in life. Of course, it's not just what you say, your message, but also how you say it that's important. Assertive communication is direct and respectful. Being assertive gives you the best chance of successfully delivering your message. Pardon me. If you communicate in a way that's too passive or too aggressive, your message may get lost because people are too busy reacting to your delivery. And again, that goes back to my saying, presentation is just as important as the message itself. It's easy to give a message, white background, black lettering, but having a sense of presentation on top of that really attracts the eye, it attracts the ear, right? But at the same time, if your presentation is too off, it won't matter what your message is. It's all about balance. It's all about finding that balance, finding that beautiful sweet spot, right? Anyways, so they give some examples of what to do and what not to do. So we'll start with assertive versus passive behavior. If your style is passive or non-assertive, you may seem to be shy or overly easygoing. And this is probably one of the things that I struggle with the most. A lot of people take me as I'm shy, I'm easygoing. They don't take what I have to say to heart because they don't take me seriously. It's one of the many things I'm trying to work on so that way I can do it better in my personal life. You may routinely say things such as, I'll just go with whatever the group decides. You tend to avoid conflict. Why is that a problem? Because the message you're sending is that your thoughts and feelings aren't as important as those of other people. And that's really the problem here is if you don't care, well, someone does, and you may not like what they care about. So that's why you have to immediately stand up for yourself, because there's going to be a point where it's too late. When you're at the ground floor, you really should learn to stand up for yourself at that exact moment. But at the same time, it means that you have to be consistent. You can't just, do it at the start and then towards the end, you're like, whatever. No, you can't do that. Once you establish that boundary, once you assert yourself, you have to maintain it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. In essence, when you're too passive, you allow others to ignore your wants and needs. And yes, you are a person with agency. You have the right to be heard. Make sure you embrace that right. Take your power back. Consider this example. You say yes when a colleague asks you to take over a project, even though you're already busy. You shouldn't be doing that. The extra work means you'll have to work overtime and miss your daughter's soccer game. You really shouldn't do that then. Your intentions may be to keep the peace, but always saying yes can poison your relationships. And worse, it may cause you internal conflict, because your needs and those of your family always come in second. The one movie that comes immediately to mind is the movie Click, where Adam Sandler he goes into Bed Bath and Beyond. Like, that's how old this movie is. And Christopher Walken's in there, and he's weird as always. He gives Adam Sandler's character that remote that allows him to pause life and move forward and backward in life. And the one thing that he ends up doing first is his boss is David Hasselhoff. And again, welcome to my review of Click at this point. He pauses the button. He pauses the remote, which stops time, and basically beats the crud out of David Hasselhoff. And then he does some other vulgar things. The main thing that to take away from that is in the movie he can fast forward, right? And the problem is when he fast forward, it's his brain that's going forward. It's not his body. So because his default was he did the work, right? He was tuned out of everything else. And basically the whole lesson is be present in the moment and find out what's important in your life. And he was lucky enough to find out what's important, which was his family. He realized that ignoring his family turns his son into Jonah Hill and that kind of stuff. So he realized real fast he can't do that. But that's kind of the whole point is, if you say yes at work, you're going to put your family on pause. And, as we've seen in other articles, even if you work hard at your job, you may not get that promotion because promotions don't really exist anymore. You may not get a raise because if you really want a raise, you're going to have to move from your job. So it's kind of pointless at this point. And that's one of the things that I respect about Gen Z is they've recognized that early and they're willing to do it. But at the same time, it's caused issues as well. So, the internal conflict that can be created by passive behavior can lead to stress, resentment, seething anger, feelings of victimization, desires to exact revenge. Oh my goodness. And doubting or questioning your own judgment. That escalated a little too fast for me. I mean, where was this going? I mean, they kind of stopped at the exact revenge part. Like, is the next step like, you know, doing a shooty bang bang thing? I shouldn't laugh. That's very dark. I apologize, but like I said, that I can already see a mass casualty event working its way into this conversation. And again, if you're thinking about doing things like that, please seek help, like serious help. Don't be afraid to do so. Okay. If you need to, you can reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with the right agencies. Okay. Okay. Anyways, assertive versus aggressive behavior. Now consider the other side. If your style is aggressive, you may come across as a bully who ignores others' needs, feelings, and opinion. You may appear self-righteous or superior. Very aggressive people embarrass, intimidate, and scare others and may even be physically threatening. You may think that being assertive gets you what you want. However, it comes at a cost. Aggression weakens trust and mutual respect. Others may come to resent you, leading them to avoid or oppose you. And that's the other aspect to this is if it gets to a point where people think that you're a bully, they're going to actively screw with you. And again, that's where you lose. Like we've seen time and time again, you got the dictator who rises up, you know, the people think that they're fighting for him. And then eventually he gets super paranoid and gets overthrown. You know, Machiavelli said that you want people to fear you, but not hate you. And that's usually what happens in that situation is people hate you and they will start screwing with you. So, you know, you have to really, really find that balance there. Anyways, assertive versus passive aggressive behavior. Now consider passive aggressive behavior. If you communicate in a passive aggressive manner, you may say yes when you want to say no. You may be sarcastic or complain about others behind their backs. Rather than confront an issue directly, you may show your anger and feelings through your actions or negative attitude. You may have developed a passive-aggressive style because you're uncomfortable being direct with your needs and feelings. This actually fits me more to a T rather than the passive one because I'm very, especially at work, I'm very sarcastic. And I know that rubs people the wrong way, but my sense of humor has been dramatically affected by my time in jail. And it's you know, I have a very nasty bout of gallows humor, which I know a lot of people would appreciate it, but I know like it has gotten me in trouble quite a lot at work and trying to find a job and stuff like that. Like I mean, I can get pretty dark. And it's not something I really want to. The other problem is my humor is very dry, which I know like a lot of people don't really appreciate that either. Like something that I find hilarious, other people find abhorrent. Again, all that has gotten me into trouble, like some really bad trouble. So it's gotten to a point where I just don't really talk much at work. I just go, you know, I grunt. Simply because, again, I don't want to get written up at work and I don't want to get dismissed for bad humor. So you really have to really understand that. And again, being assertive will help with that. So, what are the drawbacks of a passive aggressive communication style? Over time, passive aggressive behavior damages relationships and weakens mutual respect. This makes it difficult for you to get to your goals and get your goals and needs met. Yes, that's basically what I'm trying to say, which is, people won't want to help you because you're the one thing that people say about passive aggressive people is they're too negative. Not to say that being super peppy and happy also helps, but it's about balance. Again, everything's about balance. Okay, don't go into work thinking everybody's your friend, but at the same time, don't go into work and have people think that you're gonna commit a mass casualty event. Okay, like find the happy medium in between those two things. The benefits of being assertive. Being assertive is usually viewed as a healthier communication style. Assertiveness offers many benefits. It helps you keep people from taking advantage of you, and that's really why I'm approaching the assertive aspect here now. I'm tired of watching people take advantage of men. I mean, there's a lot of good, hardworking men out there. And I know the whole there's a sucker born every day thing, or every minute, or whatever the saying is. I'm tired of people taking advantage of good, hardworking men, okay? I'm tired of, at the same time, don't be naive. Come on. Have a little bit more worldly understanding of the world. Don't sit there and think that there's good in everybody. There are some very bad people out there, okay? And there are people out there that want to screw you. But at the same time, I'm tired of men allowing themselves to be taken advantage of by women, by other men, by the system, like in general. Men need to grow a freaking spine, stand up for themselves. This is what I'm talking about, is you need to do this stuff. Okay. It can also help you from acting like a bully to others. And again, that's the other aspect of this too. With great power comes great responsibility. Behaving assertively can help you gain self-confidence and self-esteem, and gain a sense of empowerment, understanding and recognizing your feelings. Okay. Earn respect from others, improve communication, create win-win situations, improve your decision-making skills, create honest relationships, and gain more job satisfaction. I would disagree with the last one, but sure. Learning to be more assertive can also help you effectively express your feelings when communicating with others about issues. Learning to be more assertive. People develop different styles of communication based on their life experiences. Your style may be so ingrained that you're not even aware of what it is. People tend to stick to the same communication style over time. But if you want to change your communication style, you can learn to communicate in healthier and more effective ways. Here are some tips to help you become more assertive. Assess your style. Do you voice your opinions or remain silent? If you say yes to additional work even when your schedule is full, are you quick to judge or blame? Do you seem to dread or fear? Do people seem to dread or fear talking to you? Understand your style before you begin making changes, and that goes into a whole thing about. This will probably be the next video in this series, is being honest with yourself. I noticed a lot of people tend to lie to themselves about themselves, and the only person you're hurting when you lie to yourself is you. You need to learn to be honest with yourself more than anything else. If you can't even be honest with yourself, then don't even try anything else. Okay. And that's the more I think about it, the more I realize that probably should have been the first video in this series, but we'll work on that. But being honest is probably the most important aspect. I'm not saying that, like, be so honest to others, but being honest to yourself, knowing who you are as a person. And sometimes in order to do that, you have to put yourself in a very uncomfortable situation, which people don't want to be uncomfortable. You know, people want to be comfortable, well fed. They want to not have to work that much. They want to be, in a way, slothful, and that's why being a sloth is kind of a sin. They're doing yard work outside. I'm sorry about that, and it drives me nuts. Oh my God! Knock it off! Shut up! Use I statements. Using I statements lets others know what you're thinking or feeling without sounding accusatory. For instance, say I disagree rather than you're wrong. If you have a request, say I would like your help with this rather than you need to do this. Keep your requests simple, specific, and clear, and nothing upsets people more than saying you need to or you. Okay? Nothing upsets people more than that. You know, because it basically is you bossing them around. Okay? Rather than, I mean, again, we've seen I statements before, you know, and using I statements is a very good thing to do. Saying, I need this, I need that, I would like, rather than saying, you're an idiot, you're wrong. Okay? Practice saying no. If you have a hard time turning down requests, try saying, no, I can't do that now. I've told you guys many times, no is a complete sentence. Just say no. Okay? But if you struggle with it, then that's a good alternative. I can't do this now. No, I can't do this now. Okay? Remember that no is a complete sentence, and you don't need to explain why you choose to say no. Don't hesitate. Be direct. If an explanation is appropriate, keep it brief. This is starting to look a little AI generated. I'm wondering if there's some AI Tom Screwery going on here. It's still a good article, but there's certain wording in here that makes me think that this is AI generated. Rehearse what you want to say. If it's challenging to say what you want or think, practice general scenarios you encounter. Say what you want to say out loud. It may help to write it out first too, so you can practice from a script. Consider role play with a friend or colleague and asking for clear feedback. And this, again, goes back to what I was saying, is you're not going to get it right if you just do it. You're going to have to practice it. Learn a way to practice it. You know, you don't get good at something without practice. You know, go in front of the mirror, practice it. Practice eye contact, practice emphasizing word. You know, what I like to do is where's my phone at? I got a record function on my phone, and I'll just sit here and go and practice that, you know. And I know, like, my slurring's a little worse than normal. I'm not drunk. I don't drink. But you know, learn how to warm up your voice and practice speaking. You know, speaking is a very critical skill to have. And a lot of people, especially younger people, don't speak because they're busy texting. I mean, don't get me wrong, texting has its place, but you got to learn to talk to each other, okay? Use body language. Communication isn't just verbal. Act confident even if you aren't feeling it. It's the best way to explain this is you're acting. That's what this is. And honestly, if everyone could, I would highly recommend taking an acting class, even if it's just one. I took an acting class in high school, and it was probably the single best class I ever took, because it's scary to not only get on stage with people watching you and acting out a scene, rehearsing that scene over and over and over, but then afterwards they critique you. And when I say critique you, it's, you know, a lot of the critiques are negative. They say, well, you should do this rather than that, blah, 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 blah. Right? The one thing that I took away from acting class specifically is there's no one answer. Okay? There's styles, and you have to find a style that you're comfortable with, but don't be afraid to have a toolbox of styles. You know, one of the things that I learned from those who've served in the military, and if you have, thank you. It was just recently Memorial Day, so thank you all for those who served. Just looking and pausing. You know, it's very Machiavellian. You know, don't speak, just look, because people are uncomfortable when there's silence. Get used to silence. Be comfortable and quiet. You know, don't say more than you have to. I'm enjoying my morning coffee. Leave me alone. But these small tricks, and again, if you read Machiavelli or you listen to Machiavelli, right, and you go to an acting class, just one, like I said, one. My favorite exercise in acting class is the improv. The improv really forces you to think quick, you know, because you can't just be like, you have to, you know, there's some games that you can play. Like if you watch Whose Line Is It Anyway, like the old one with Drew Carey, those are really good. Like if you just watch them and play some of the games, like they do Scenes from a Hat. That's a good one. They do sometimes every once in a while they do the alphabet, which is you start at a letter out of the alphabet, and the sentence has to start with that letter, and then you do a scene from that. X is very hard to do. It always turns into xylophone or Xena, Warrior Princess. But yeah, just start doing those things, okay? Another good one is Paul Harrell was a big advocate of having you go outside of your shell to kind of get used to being in scary scenarios. He talked about going to karaoke, you know, but just going out there and doing something that you never would do. Get out of your shell, and that helps you become more confident, which builds upon this. Okay. Anyways, I'm sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent. Keeping an upright posture, but lean forward a bit. There's a good term for that. It's called doing an LBJ, because LBJ was big on that. He was a tall guy, and he just lean in just to really make people afraid of him. Make regular eye contact. Maintain a neutral or positive facial expression. Don't cross your arms or legs. That's a big one, because the moment you do that, it makes you look closed off, like you're almost afraid in a way, like, you know. So don't do that. Always, what I do is I keep my hands behind my back. Another one is there's I don't know if it's like specifically a mob thing, but if you watch The Sopranos, Paulie Walnuts does it a lot. He has his hands in front of him, and he's always messing with them, right? And the one big thing that the one reason why he does that is if they're in his pocket and someone comes after him, he needs to be able to fight when it's ready, you know. So do that. Face the person. Practice assertive body language in front of a mirror or with a friend or colleague. In addition to what you say, your body language or facial expressions are also important. Pardon me. Keep emotions in check. Conflict is hard for most people. Maybe you get angry or frustrated, or maybe you feel like crying. Although these feelings are typical, they can get in the way of resolving conflict. If you feel too emotional going into a situation, wait a bit if possible. Then work on remaining calm. Breathe slowly. Keep your voice even and firm. That's very hard to do, especially if it's a very charged situation. And last but not least, Start small. You know, what do they say in the Patriot? Aim small, miss small. That's why. If you aim small, you're going to miss small. At first, practice your new skills in situations that are low risk. For instance, try out your assertiveness on a partner or friend before tackling a difficult situation at work. Evaluate yourself afterwards and adjust your approach as needed. And that's another big one, is learning to reflect. A lot of people think they know reflection. They don't. You know, reflecting is analyzing what you did, what you could do different. You know, not only analyzing it, but applying it. You know, it's easy to Monday night quarterback what's going on. It's easy to do that. But if you're not willing to take that information and apply it the next time, then why are you wasting the energy? You can spend that energy on literally anything else. You know, there's only 24 hours in a day, and we got to spend so much of it sleeping. So, you know, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your energy, and you're wasting everybody else's time and energy. So stop that. And then last but not least, when you need help being assertive, remember, learning to be assertive takes time and practice. If you spent years silencing yourself, becoming more assertive probably won't happen overnight. Or if anger leads you to be too aggressive, you may need to learn some anger management techniques, which, yeah, maybe. My favorite one is starting at 5 and counting down. Okay, that helps. If despite your best efforts, you're not making progress towards becoming more assertive, consider formal assertiveness training. And if certain issues such as anger, stress, anxiety, or fear are getting in your way, consider talking with a mental health professional. The payoff will be worth it. By becoming more assertive, you can begin to express your true feelings and needs more easily. You may even find that you get more of what you want as a result. Okay, so again, everyone here by now probably knows my opinions on therapists and therapy. I'm not a fan of one-on-one, and I'm not a fan of therapists. But I will say that it's easier if you have someone to practice with rather than trying to do it on your own. So I would strongly encourage you to, if you do have someone in your life that you feel comfortable with, ask them for help, and, you know, more likely they'd be willing to help you out. In terms of like, if your anger or something's getting in your way, you may need more help than being assertive. We can probably discuss that in a future video. So anyways, let's go to comments and then final thoughts after this commercial break. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Hello, my friends. Jack Descartes here once again. Thank you for watching this video. We appreciate it. I just would like to take a few moments of your time. Right now, we are currently raising money to host a website. We have Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, as well as a Patreon in case you'd like to donate once or you'd like to give a continued donation. The donation on the Patreon is only $3 a month. Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal, you can donate however much you want. There is no obligation. I will continue to try to provide as much content for free as possible. Once the website is up, we will use that as a hub for all Sentinel Circle related activities, including local meetups, as well as online meetups, online discussions, and videos. So again, if you could go and donate to either Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, or Patreon, all the links are in the description. We appreciate everything you have done for us. And if you can't donate, we still ask that you like, subscribe, and share. All these activities do help even in the most insignificant ways. If you do donate, you will be immortalized in our videos and the website. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Now back to our scheduled program. Thank you for coming back. I appreciate it. We're going to read your comments now. First comment is from NCK4888. And again, it's always good to hear from Nick. I appreciate it. Boundaries and things I will not do for her were the first things I mentioned to my wife of 17 years when we first started dating. And Nick, I gotta say, the fact that you did that was very good. Bravo. Golf clap. The one thing I've noticed when it comes to relationships, and I'm guilty of it too, is especially... how can I say this without coming off as awful? I guess I'll just say what's on my mind. Women can be in a relationship easier than a man can. And a lot of men recognize this. And that's why we come off as jellyfish, is because we're so afraid of being alone. And that's really where men are coming from right now, is they're so afraid of being alone that they're gonna their constitution is like, you know, a cheap paper bag. It's gonna fold under the slightest bit of pressure. And that's kind of the issue with men in general. That's why we have simps. That's why we have the new male epidemic right now, which is we're just in a spot where men recognize that they want a woman in their life, and in order to have a woman in their life, they're going to have to bend over backwards. You know, because a lot of men just are not getting dates, they're not getting relationships, they're not getting a lot of the woman attention that we were told would happen when we got older. So the fact that Nick did that on his own, and he's still together with his wife for 7, that's impressive. Like, I respect Nick in a way that, you know, I'm very happy for him. I'm very happy for his successes in life. And I know that it's not easy, you know, but again, laying that down early will make people respect you. And again, maybe I need to do a whole video on simps or something. I have lots of topic ideas, but Nick, it's always good to hear from you. And I think we got another comment from, yes, we do. It says, I agree. Females have a more carnal desire than men, believe it or not. Their emotional status is never stable, and it's in their nature. Unfortunately, some males have developed that trait. But unlike men, the woman can't let go of the past and will forever hold on to the unstable emotion to bring it back up in the future. There's no solving the problem. It's always who they blame. It's always who to blame from what I've observed. And I'm gonna actually disagree with Nick here. The not letting go of the past, both men and women do it. Men to a lesser extent. I'm going to confess, I have a hard time giving up the past. But I think what it boils down to is it's trauma that forces us to relive the past like that. But so when it comes to men and women, obviously our brains work differently. Okay, it's been scientifically proven that men and women's brains work completely differently. Men tend to be more out here, whereas women tend to be more in the center, if I recall correctly. That's why women tend to not be as analytical and creative, but they can kind of do both, but they're not really good at it, whereas men can be very creative or very analytical and excel at it. Not to say that there aren't exceptions to that rule. It's just, statistically speaking, that's what it is. And again, it's been proven time and time again that women mostly run on emotion, whereas men can take emotion out of the equation. Again, nothing wrong with that. There's a reason why we're built this way, okay? That being stated, like I said, I struggle to let certain things go. And the reason for, I can't speak for everybody else, but for me, it's because it has shaped me to who I am today. You know, I'm still very, very, very bitter over what happened to me 10 plus years ago. The reason why I tried to do something about it. It didn't work. I tried to ignore it, and it really didn't work for me ignoring it. And I've been told by multiple people I should let it go. I should just drop it and move on with my life. The problem is when I stare myself in the mirror, I'm still there in that prison cell. I have post-traumatic stress disorder. I know I have it. Am I diagnosed? No. But I exhibit the symptoms of it. Okay? I refuse to get quote-unquote professional help simply because the professional help I've received in the past not only did not help me, but actively made things worse. Okay? The problem is I can't confront it either, because confronting it will land me in serious trouble. Okay? So, I have no choice in the matter. I have to endure with what I have. And it's hard. Every single day, it's hard. I do have flashbacks. I do have horrible memories over it. You know, and that's why I'm doing Sentinel Circle, is because I don't want other men to go through what I went through. Okay? So that's why I can't let it go. I would love to be able to take a pill and I have no memory of it whatsoever. It would probably make my life actively better. But that being stated, I feel that it would be a detriment to society if I forgot it. And the reason why I say that, I wouldn't say society. Let me back up. I would say it would be a detriment to men everywhere. Let me say it that way. And I'm not saying that I'm the savior of men. That would be arrogant of me, and I'm not like that. But my experience was so extreme. And I know that I'm not the only one who's gone through something like that. I know there are other men who have. You know, Randy, I don't mean to bring up Ruby Ridge. I'm not like, you know, that extreme. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is that man literally had his wife shot in front of him. And, you know, he had no idea what was going on. Okay? I know there's conspiracies and whatever, but I can't imagine losing someone I love, you know, the mother of my children, like that. I can't. And I hope to God I never have to go through it. But he has to live with it every single day. There's no amount of therapy that's going to take that back. Okay? Because at the end of the day, therapy is not going to cure you. It's just a way to help you cope. But you can only do so much with therapy. You have to find it in yourself to cope. Right? And that's kind of where a lot of people, and even myself, have kind of had that mistaken understanding of therapy. But that's what I'm saying is, like, I can learn how to cope without paying $200 a visit. And that's what a lot of people need to learn to do, is learn how to cope with their problems. So, Nick, good comment. Like I said, I disagree with some parts of it, but hey, we're men. We can disagree and still be friends. And I appreciate you commenting. You're a good guy. Okay? Sam Fisher. Sometimes all we do is hurt. It is a sad fact of life. Good work, Jack. And yes, this is true. And anybody who sits there and says that men can't hurt, they either hate men or they're ignorant. There, I said it. Someone quote me. You know, anybody, God, these allergies. Anybody who sits there and says that men can't hurt, they're wrong. Okay, men can hurt, and it sucks. You know, so we drive on. And then another comment from Singletown on Rumble. Oh, my feelings, yap, yap, yap. BBC is trash. It was on the one of the articles I did that men were doing worse than women. And I hate those articles with a passion, and that's the reason why I bring it here, because I know it would be entertaining for everybody. And those videos are actually doing pretty okay. Not as good. When it comes to YouTube, sometimes just certain videos just do better. I don't know why. It seems like there's no rhyme or reason. I know it's what it boils down to is it's just, you know, I get lucky. So that's why I've decided that I'm just going to do whatever. I don't want to say whatever I want on these videos. It's more just I'm going to pick topics. If they do good, great. If they don't do good, okay, well, you know what? Whatever. I'm not going to sit there and try to follow trends and just be another voice in a choir or a chorus, whatever you want to say. I want to, be authentic to myself. And if I had like 1 million followers, I would still be authentic to myself. And the authenticity is I'm bringing topics that I feel are noteworthy to help men. That's what I do. But yeah, I agree. BBC is trash. All third estate media is just, or pardon me, fourth estate. Fourth estate media is just utterly toilet. So, anyways, we're gonna go ahead and switch over to final thoughts. So, when it comes to being assertive, the main thing that you all have to learn is there's a fine line between either being a jerk or being female genitalia. I don't want anybody to go around and just being a jerk to anybody. Okay? But at the same time, you can't be female genitalia. You have to find the balance where you're heard, even if you don't get what you want, at least they hear you. At the end of the day, you are your best advocate. And if you're not doing a damn good job of being your own advocate, then nobody else is going to come anywhere close to that. Okay? I see it with like healthcare. I see it with work, with all these things. Everybody's so afraid to lose their job. They're afraid to be kicked out of the doctor's office, which I'm not saying go get yourself kicked out of the doctor's office, but don't be afraid to go beat on a few doors. Demand answers. You have that right. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because, how many articles have we heard about medical malpractice leads some person to lose their vision or whatever, and it, like, you read the article and you're like, well, why didn't he just ask questions? So that's what I'm saying is you got to learn to be your own advocate. And that means being assertive. Don't sit there and talk down to someone, but, don't be afraid to say your piece. Okay. Don't be afraid to speak your mind in a very respectful and polite way, but at the same time, use words like please and thank you. I'm like, I was in a no, actually, I'll give you a good story. I was at a Chick-fil-A about a year or two ago, and I ordered, God, what did I order? I ordered mac and cheese because I'm a sucker for mac and cheese. And the girl comes up to me, like the counter girl, and she's just like, as she's coming up to me, I'm like, what's going on? So she's like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but we don't have any mac and cheese. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, well, that's okay. And you could see the relief she had in her. And this is a minimum, I wouldn't say minimum, Chick-fil-A is not minimum wage, but she's the lowest person on the totem pole, right? She's just trying to do her job, and you could tell that there was genuine fear in her freaking eyes. And I before she walks away, I said, ma'am, can I ask you a question? She turns to me and she says, yeah, no problem. I said, why were you so afraid to tell me that there was no mac and cheese? Do people scream at you quite a bit because of it? She said, yeah, I get it quite a bit. She actually made a point to tell me that I was one of the nicest customers she's ever had. And that I shouldn't say it scared me. It shocked me. it shocked me in the sense that, I try to treat people, I'm a very golden rule kind of person. I want people to treat me with respect. I know it doesn't happen, especially at work. It really doesn't happen, but I try to be as kind and respectful as possible to everybody I meet, simply because it's how I want to be treated. I want to be able to go up and shake someone's hand and have a nice conversation with them. Be pleasant. I really don't like rudeness. Again, being direct isn't being rude. I mean, I know in the past I've told Godfather of Ramadi that he's a very direct person, and he thought that I was criticizing him. I said, no, you get me wrong. I respect the fact that you're direct. I don't like the whole beating around the bush aspect. It's just, I know his delivery is a little, it's intense, but he's a former Marine. It's like telling someone from New York that they're rude, and that's just how New Yorkers are. They are very direct people. They can move at, like, one of my dad's friends is from New York, and he doesn't have a lot of friends being on the West Coast because people find him rude, even though, he's just breaking balls. That's just how he is. He's a New Yorker. And I will say he can be a bit much. My grandmother's boyfriend, a guy by the name of Antonio. This guy, he's a self-made millionaire. He came to the U.S. with nothing. The man was a World War II veteran. He had 2 destroyers go down underneath him in the Pacific. He survived quite a lot, And he had his quirks. He's very Italian, like very, very Italian, but he was one of the most generous men ever. It's just, he demanded certain respect. One of the big things was you couldn't have flatulence around him. He'd get very upset. He actually, the one story that my grandmother liked to tell is that he had a coworker in his car, and the guy kept cutting them as he driving. So Antonio pulled over and kicked his rear end out of the car and left him on the side of the road. It's one of those things, but you have to have respect. You have to demand respect too. And that's where assertiveness comes into play. Is by being assertive means you command respect. You don't demand, you command it. And it is a skill. Now, I will say that the reason why older men specifically can do that is 2 things. One is they've earned it. And 2 is they've been around the block enough to know how to command it. And I'm not saying all men are like that. I know older men who are not like that at all. Okay? But anyways, like I said, you just got to learn to, you got to also learn to stand your ground. Once you make that proclamation, you got to learn to back it up, unless like you're way out of line, which, another mark of respect is knowing when you're wrong and being willing to change your mind. I've had incidences even here on this channel where I'm wrong and I've been called out for it and I back down, and like I said, I thought that I was doing the right thing. Turned out I was not doing the right thing. And I made, like I said, I apologize and we move on. That's the mark of being a man. And I'm not saying this to weaken you or anything as a man. I'm trying to bring all men up. That's my goal here at Sentinel Circle, is to bring all men up so that way we can reclaim our power. And I don't mean power as in like social structure or whatever. I'm talking about power here in the soul, the mind, the body, the soul. We've lost that because we're raised by women. We're taught by women. We barely have any interaction with other real men. And the men that we do have interaction with are not men. They're new males. you know? So we have to relearn how to be men. Let me put it this way. I used to think that being a man was about biology and that naturally we would just instinctively know. And the problem is it's not. You can lose it in a generation. You know, being a man is the accumulated wisdom of thousands of years of trial and error, realistically. You know, the strongest survive. You know, I mean, we live in such a, I don't want to say a weak culture. We live in a very decadent culture. We don't have to do these things. We can go to work, come home, sit in front of our computer and interact all day, you know, or watch movies or whatever. We don't have to go hunt for food. We don't have to compete for better things in the tribe. You know, if you want something better, you just go buy it. You know, we've lost certain abilities, certain arts in our society. You know, I mean, I once saw the Sistine Chapel. You know, I saw the amazing work of Michelangelo, and I gotta say, looking at a picture of it is better than actually being there, but that's just me. I don't think we could create something like that today. You know, when Notre Dame burned down a couple years ago, there was talk about updating it because a lot of the skills that were needed to rebuild it don't exist anymore. You know, and I've heard time and time and time again that a lot of the skills that were needed to make magnificent pieces of human achievement have been lost. You know, and I know that that's like probably not 100% true. I mean, there's still stonemasons out there and they can still carve beautiful pieces of intricate art. But I digress. The point is we're losing things as men because we're not passing them down. You know, like my father did not really want anything to do with me until I was an older man. You know, I lost probably a lot of the things that he could have passed on to me, right? Now that I'm older, I like I said, he's trying to, you know, be a better father, but the problem is it's kind of a little too late in my book. Either way, my point is you know, as especially being, you know, approaching middle age as I am, I feel it's kind of my duty to pass my wisdom down onto a younger generation. You know, even if they just take one little bit of nugget of wisdom, then I've done my job. And if you're an older man watching my videos, I would highly encourage you to do the same. I know, you know, you may be like, oh, they haven't earned it or whatever. No, it's still your responsibility. You know, we got to get out of this whole hyper individual mindset because that is what's destroying us as a gender, us as a group. You know, men need to be able to pass on their wisdom. And I know not all men are going to do that. There's a lot of men out there that want to just live their life. And I get it. I'm not going to sit there and question that. But to me, it is kind of a responsibility. So my hope is, you know, you take what I presented in this this video from the article and you apply it. You know, there's plenty of articles out there. There's plenty of videos out there on how to do it better. Just find a style. It may take some practice, but you'll get there. Okay? But don't be afraid to practice. Don't be afraid to try. Because when you're afraid to try, you've already lost. You'll never succeed in life. You have to be willing to try. And that's, I think, out of every skill that we've lost, the skill to know how to try is probably the worst one to have lost. So hopefully this helps. Anyways, if you enjoyed my video, please Like and subscribe. I appreciate your taking the time to watch these videos. It really does mean a lot to me. And please comment. With the comments this week were a little shy, a little short. So even if you want to tell me I'm wrong, please, I appreciate it. If you want, you can email me as well. Those are always appreciated. I try to email back as much as I can. It may take a few days, but I will definitely get to you. All right. Anyways, have a good day.